Happy Virgo season, everybody. This video should be coming out around the new moon in Virgo at the end of August. Thanks for all your support, by the way, with the debut on Lada's channel. It means a lot to me, everybody. So, Virgo season is when we take harvest. Back when we all had to be farmers, because that's how we ate before cities and civilization, all that good stuff. We would take stock of everything we grew for the year. We'd have a big feast at the September equinox, and we'd put away what we needed to for the winter. Financially, what does that mean? Profit taking, right? So financial markets generally hate September, right? It's historically the worst month for markets, right? All the New York bankers that don't know or do know about astrology know that after the summer, they're going to be leaving the Hamptons or wherever they're at, and they're going to come back to work with markets that are down, okay? Such as nature on planet Earth, Virgo season, you can thank astrology for that. Mars and Taurus gave the market a bump like we discussed it would. And now we're in the shadow period of Mercury as Mercury slows down into its retrograde motion by September 9th. But I'm not here today to talk about Mercury retrograde. Other astrologers and astrology apps and things like that will do that for you, right? I'm here to address some feedback that I got from you guys from the video that I did with Lada. Some people asked me, why are you only talking about the US when you're going to talk about other countries? What about Europe? What about Europe? Tell us about Europe. These predictions that I made in that video were for the world, right? Not just the US. The US's natal chart that I used in that video, I did that because we're talking about money. And 80% of the world uses dollars. So by talking about the dollar, I'm talking about mostly everybody. But still, we'll focus on Europe specifically today and lightly talk about other countries too. See, when other countries print money, they generally do it for themselves. The US does as well, but because everyone uses dollars, when we print money, it affects the entire world, and that's part of what the central bankers are considering because everybody likes to use dollars. And that is why the US dollar is doing better than the other world currencies currently, right? Even though America printed a lot of money, every other country printed a lot too, usually a lot more, right? So this is a relative game. Everybody still wants dollars. Nobody else really wants these other countries' money, generally speaking, right? It doesn't mean things are just sweet in America. Americans still can afford less and less and less and less of the things that they want because their government printed money too, a lot. But here's the key thing to understand. Now that the US has stopped printing dollars, it becomes very difficult for the world, except Ukraine, to access dollars right now. It becomes really difficult for the world to get access to dollars. And if you have debt in dollars or things to pay for in dollars and you're outside of the US, then what happens? Things become quite difficult. So let's talk about Europe.
There is this graph about the balance sheet of the European Central Bank and the money that is on there now. And here it is. What I would like to show our viewers and ask the question about is, this is going over 8 trillion euros now. Mm-hmm. And isn't what you just told us about the cryptocurrencies, don't we see a gigantic bubble here on your balance sheet with the euro? And isn't this graph very nerve-wracking?
Well, I can tell you that there is 0 crypto assets in the balance sheet of the ECB.
That I know.
Point number one. Well, I just don't want any ambiguity about it.
Yeah.
But you have to think in terms of counterfactual. If we had not decided on March 18th, when we put together the pandemic emergency program and then subsequently increased the volume of commitment that we made to the European Union economies, we would be in a devastated situation. So I don't regret any of that move that we took on that day, which was 4 months into my job, to significantly increase the size of the balance sheet, because that's all we had. Yeah. Otherwise, the economy would have collapsed, and it would have been even accelerated by a financial crisis.
You had to do it. It was the COVID crisis. You say that's what we needed to do. But how do you get it?
It will
back?
come. It will come. In due course. Yeah.
How?
In due course, it will come.
Yeah?
No,
But do you
because I
sleep
will-
at night when you see this?
Of course, I have to sleep at night, and I have to worry every morning. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The forming of the European Union was a process that became official in November of 1993. This means that the EU currently is undergoing its Saturn return in Aquarius. With the forming of the EU, they were able to say, this group of countries over there and over here, you now have one currency, the euro, one larger government, and one passport that will allow you to move through these other countries. So I wonder if Saturn's return to Aquarius is re-triggering any of these themes. Themes related to forcibly using one currency with one larger government and one form of ID that the government finds acceptable. And because the outer planet of technological revolution, Uranus, is the modern ruler in Western astrology of the sign of Aquarius, I wonder if authority figures in governments, Saturn, will want these themes of currency and identification digitized Aquarius. That by the time Saturn leaves Aquarius in March of 2023, we will know our answer. Pluto, planet of transformation and upheaval, the planet that locked us down with Saturn 2 years ago, is actually also joining the sign of Aquarius as well in March of 2003. Right? So this means humanity will once again have to adapt to transformations, Pluto, which likely caused by a crisis, Pluto, change our world forever, Pluto. And many people will keep their head in the sand and not want it to change because Pluto transformations don't complete in our lifetime. So there will be people that live their whole entire lives that never really adapt to this change. More on that in upcoming videos. Subscribe now, follow, whatever. Don't. It's fine. And you know, if you don't want to wait and you really want to freak yourself out about Pluto and Aquarius or Uranus and Gemini, you can just go watch any episode of Black Mirror on Netflix. That'll do it. Anyway, back to Europe. So check this out. Uranus natally is on 18 degrees of Capricorn. Neptune's there too. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. So, has anything impacted 18 degrees of Capricorn lately? Well, several weeks ago, the transiting North Node, aka Rahu, transiting Uranus and Mars were all around 18 degrees of the sign of Taurus. And Taurus rules currencies. The North Node talks about expansion. Uranus talks about uncomfortably sudden technological revolutions. And Mars, well, Mars, that's the war god. Mars is a cutter. So when it comes to currencies, there will be a cutting off, Mars. There will be expansion, North Node. And there will be uncomfortably sudden technological revolutions, Uranus. Right? And this energy will be heaviest, it'll be most intense at 18 degrees of Taurus, 5 signs away from Capricorn, 18 degrees exactly. It's exact. So this means that Europe will feel this. So what's the prediction? The European Union certainly will adopt digital currencies. 5 signs away is trine energy. It's a triangle. That's trine energy, which means that it'll just flow. And what is it that's going to happen that'll make digital currencies just flow? And this, my friends, is where I have to warn you about the euro. If you've seen the talk that I did with Lada last month, you know that I predicted a major financial crisis triggered by the eclipse season around the end of October going into November. There's going to be 2 eclipses, lunar, solar, right? End of October and mid-November in 2022. Europe is most likely not going to be able to pay their dollar-based debts. Once people learn this is happening, right? And once they undergo other cracks in the financial system in Europe, people will freak out and they will try to exchange euros for dollars. The exchange rate is going to be crazy. They're going to make the exchange rates very expensive to do that, but people will still do that. If you have a lot of euros in savings and you think you might be in a situation where you're trying to exchange a bunch of euros for dollars or some other currency in that scenario, well, rates are going to be cheaper now than they will be later, so just keep that in mind. Plus, if you have the kind of bank where in the event of an emergency they can block the access to those dollars, then maybe take some of those dollars out of the bank before those eclipses, maybe, or just make sure you're with a bank that will give you that control with your money. Those of you who I've had live readings with, who took my advice, you're probably very, very happy with me now, especially since the euro recently lost parity with the dollar. A couple of days ago, 1 euro was equal to 99 cents. The euro used to be like $1.40, even higher than that, right? So it's at a critical point right now, and you guys can tell where I think things are headed. And see, the thing about these predictions is, if the energy doesn't take place this way, you can just wait until January 2023 next year. You can go put your money back in the bank. We'll be in a much better position then after these heavy eclipses in October and November. If not, and I'm right, you lost your money for good, and I don't want that for you, all right? I said the US will experience stagflation, a stagnant economy with inflation issues. But what about everywhere else? Everywhere else will not experience stagflation. If you live in a country where nobody else in the world wants your money, then you will experience hyperinflation. Why? Because your governments will be trying to pay off the debts that they have in dollars by printing more of your local currency. And that money is just going to stay in your country, which inflates the prices of everything where you live. You need to put your money somewhere. You have to. So let's put astrology aside for a second. This is game theory, baby. This is why human beings make the decisions that they make, and that's what got me into economics in the first place. There's a psychology behind decision making. And whether you like it or not, economic psychology tells me that you want to put your money somewhere that you trust. So where are you going to keep your money? Let's look at some other countries, for example. Just real quick, let's talk about it. China? You want to invest in China right now? You want to do that? They're dealing with massive corruption and their version of the 2008 real estate crisis right now. And the ripples of that will become more apparent as we get into eclipse season. Not good. People invested a lot of money over there they're not going to get back. In fact, a week or two after Lotta and I spoke, this started happening at banks in China. And just like I said, people would not be able to access their money. Everyone's worried about China globally because the news tells you to be. China has their moon in Aquarius, which means while Saturn's been in Aquarius, they've been being depressed. The people, the moon, have been depressed by Saturn for years and years to come. While Saturn goes into Pisces, they still feel this heaviness. In Vedic astrology, this is known as sadesati. Believe me, they're not having a good time over there. They're not. China grew because foreign manufacturing went over there in the 90s, and because it's okay to steal foreign technology over there. Let's just be honest. That's a part of it. Times are changing. Times are changing. An example, like, because of the way they're handling lockdowns, for example, the next Apple iPhone, phone 14 or whatever number they're on now, it's not being produced in China. It's being made in India. That's how they're handling lockdowns. Hong Kong, by the way, full protest in 2019 before lockdown. So China is a danger to itself internally right now more than it is to the rest of the world. And then you going to invest in Japan? Well, they're just destroying their currency. They're still printing money to try and solve their problems. So do you want to invest in Japan? And of course, what about Europe? Well, not only is there a war knocking on Europe's door, there's an energy crisis there too. Should be a fun winter, especially in Germany. And now the European Central Bank is buying more government bonds just to keep interest rates low enough so they can keep printing money to fund all their World Economic Forum plans for this great reset we're all going to be so happy about. So, this becomes a game of relativity. Money is all about trust at the end of the day, right? Which country do you trust to take the best care of your money? People are going to invest in the US, especially from external countries. So money is going to be moving, money is going to be moving back to the US. And as the rest of the world sees that a better store of value can be had in the US relative to everywhere else, where are they going to send their money? They're going to send their money to the US. The world will be asking for more dollars. There's a shortage of that because the US is raising the cost of money. They're raising interest rates. That's what interest rates do. And so one of the things we might see is people from other countries buying American stocks just to park their money temporarily while things are chaotic. This, by the way, it's not going to help America fight inflation. And that's what they want to do. They want to fight inflation. US dollar interest rates basically are going to keep going higher. So this is like a cycle of financial doom where dollars are coming to the US and then the US is raising rates to fight inflation, but more people want more dollars, and it can really lead to a cycle that causes crisis, right? People are so used to the markets going up and that they think the US Federal Reserve and those central bankers, they're just going to stop increasing the cost of money in reverse direction and make it cheaper again, because that's what they've done for like a decade straight. And people think this can happen any day now, and they're wrong. And now that it's Virgo season, people are starting to take stock of their harvest, and they're starting to realize what I've been saying all year long. The American central bankers want to see the market crash more. That's what they want. They don't care if businesses close. They don't care if you lose your job. They just want to bring down inflation. The people in office want it so they get reelected, and the people at the Federal Reserve want it so that they keep their job and the dollar maintains its relevancy throughout the world. Nobody wants to lend money when they're going to get paid back with inflated money that is worth less than they rent it out, or than they lent it out for. They lent it out for. So interest rates go up. And if people think inflation is permanent, they're going to front run it. They're going to turn their money into real stuff, Taurus, as soon as possible. So this is why inflation has to be fought. Because if people front run inflation and they're buying things before, as soon as they get their paycheck or as soon as they get their money, the currency blows up. The cost of everything goes up. This is where 1930s Weimar Germany, Germany, that's why the cost of bread was like $1 million at one point. It blows up a currency. And then it's all over. You got to start over again. You need a new currency that people would trust in, right? It's all about trust. So if you fight inflation, though, like the US is doing, your economy stops growing, right? Europe isn't even trying, dude. The European Central Bank is buying more government bonds so just to keep interest rates low enough so that they can keep printing money, baby. Their interest rate is 0. So here's the big question I want you to sit with. Since unmanaged inflation results in the inevitable death of a currency, why then is the American Central Bank so passionate about reducing inflation, and why is Europe not? This implementation of a digital euro, when it comes to you and I, it'll destroy our privacy. But not for politicians. Well, they need their privacy for national security reasons. It's for your safety that you can't see the parliament and the president and the prime minister's accounts. We can see yours to prevent financial terrorism, but You don't need to see ours. It's for your safety. So not only would it destroy our privacy, it would severely damage commercial banking, which would severely damage people's ability to take out loans from these banks. And it'll cause all kinds of problems. All kinds. So why on earth would people accept the adoption of a digital euro? What's going to happen there? Maybe, just maybe, there's a financial crisis so bad that, well, the digital euro is the only sensible option.
It's at the end, what the fourth industrial revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological identities. When I wrote the book, I started to write it 4 years ago.
And since this video is going on Lada's channel, she just got her channel back, so, this topic could get a lot more, let's just leave it at that. Maybe I'll dive in deeper on my channel when I have time, but that's Europe. And forgive my sense of humor, but if you don't believe in these predictions, all I have to say to you is...
It will come. It will come. In due course. Yeah.
How?
Until next time, be well, one love.